up anymore, right?
No.
Okay, we'll call the city council meeting to order May 3rd, 2023. Please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Allison.
Here.
Tom Baylor is absent. Kathy Sherman.
Here.
Casey Kinsman.
Here.
Melina Meyer is absent. Ann Schaefer.
Here.
Kristen Carpenter.
Here.
And Ken Jones is absent. That is
Here.
quorum. Oh, Ken, are you there? Okay. All right, that's a quorum of council. Five.
Okay, is there any objection to approving the regular agenda? If none, then the agenda will stand approved. Any disclosures of conflicts of interest or ex parte communications? Hearing none, then we'll move along to communications by and petitions from visitors. We have some guest speakers tonight. I think I'll turn it over to Bert, I guess, and you can introduce the people. Are you still, whoever's the lead of the project?
Yeah, we don't know that. I'll be quick. I'm going to introduce Norm with Bristol Engineering and Barry Hooper with Alaska DOT. They'll be presenting to you guys on the information of what's on the screen.
Thank you.
So, good evening. I'm Barry Hooper with the Department of Transportation. I'm Northern Region Right-of-Way Chief and Technical Team Leader for Utilities and also Environmental. So ME requested that DOT assist with the acquisitions for the Shepherd Point project last year, and the purpose of that, or part of the reason, was that DOT has been involved with this project since the early 90s. DOT had already acquired an easement out there to start the project in 1998. However, DOT turned the project over to BIA in the early 2000s. We also have a maintenance agreement for the project, so once the project's built, DOT is committed to provide maintenance for the project. And as you may be aware, that the EIS was rewrite or update was completed last year. Major permitting has been finished for the project, so that's what's got us to today. We're looking to acquire, and we submitted an offer to the city a couple weeks ago. So I'm going to go through, I just went through DOT's involvement, brief purpose of why DOT has been involved, at least in the past, and why we're here now. I'm going to go through a brief description of the project and then go through the offer package. So just by way of a brief description of the project, the purpose of the project is a marine tribal transportation facility, oil spill and marine casualty facility. The project proposes to build 4.3 miles of road from the end of Orca Road, or New England Cannery Road. It also proposes to put a approximately 5-acre dock and port facility at the end of the road. as the, for the marine casualty and oil spill facility. This is a detail of the parcels from it. It shows towards the top, you'll see in blue, that is the city parcel. It connects from Orca Road. It's the start of the project. It's approximately the first quarter mile of the road. The red, or the yellow and red parcels are where the road continues on. And that's owned by the EAC Corporation and the Chugach Alaska Corporations. We have also made offers to those parties, which is in process, and that was approximately 3 weeks ago, similar to when we made the offer to you. This is the parcel that we're seeking to acquire. It's approximately, or it is 6.269 acres in size. Bristol Engineering has been working with the city on the configuration of this right-of-way parcel. You'll notice there's a notch on the top of it that was taken out by request. That's where the water tank is with straddles, which is partly on the city's property and partly on the Orca Lodge property to the west, or to the north, excuse me. You'll see a circular area, that's DOT right away in there, and somewhat of an odd shape. This shows improvements towards the left. There's a small drainage feature bridge that's going to be built. It will go drain onto DOT property, and there's culverts being proposed on DOT's property. Those are currently being in the permit process right now, being reviewed. In the middle of this, roughly in the middle, there's another bridge proposed, a larger bridge. Either side of that are water lines, and Bristol Engineering is currently working on working through permits and the requirements for adjusting those as necessary during construction. So I'm going to go through the offer now. So I just showed the property that's requested. Identified as parcel 2 on the right-of-way map. Again, it's 6.269 acres. Also in your and the offer package that was submitted was an appraisal. The appraisal that was performed under the requirements of DOT's right-of-way manual and the Uniform Act, which requires a qualified appraiser to develop an independent and impartial appraisal. Appraisal that's supported by documentation and analysis, and that also complies with the Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice, also known as USPAP. Under the Uniform Act, there's also required to be a second look at this by a review appraiser. DOT hired a review appraiser to take a look to make sure that the opinion of value by the appraiser was supported, and also to make a recommendation of just compensation. The recommendation for just compensation can include additional things beyond fair market value, such as damages that may occur, or uneconomic remnants. That was part of the adjustments that was done working with city staff, as they had isolated parcels that they requested that the right would be adjusted, so there wouldn't be a stranded city parcel on one side of the road, with the exception of the water tank. In that, you'll also see an extraordinary assumption for the functioning water system. In the appraisal, it was the assumption was that what was being disturbed by the project would be restored in the scope of the construction project. So this is also some of the things that Bristol Engineering is working with the city to make sure that they're made whole as far as the water line. The appraisal, the review appraiser came up with a recommendation of $37,700 for the just compensation. That works out to a little more than $6,000 an acre. The compensation that's in the offer is consistent with that, proposing the same compensation to the city. That will be for the acquisition of a unrestricted permanent easement for the project. So the easement that's being proposed is what's required by federal highways for the project. It also requires that the native village of EAC have kind of control over utilities, and so that's why you see Bristol Engineering also working with proposing utility permits that will be in place after construction. So for the acquisition process from where we are now, if you're in agreement with the offer, you certainly can pass a resolution authorizing approval, and we will work with you on the final documentation. You also have the right to take your time as needed to understand the offer, ask questions as needed. If you have concern with the terms of the conveyance, we certainly can discuss those and negotiate.
If I could just ask, do you have a time frame that is ideal for the project from your end?
I would defer to Bert on that, but I think it's kind of as soon as possible, but we want to give you the time that you need to properly consider the offer. Anyway, that concludes my presentation. Do you have any questions? Other questions?
Questions, anybody? Is this at the planning commission, or where is this at the city level?
Kevin, do you want to come up and explain our process?
So far, this has only been worked on at the staff level. This isn't a disposal of land, so staff was not going to be taking it through the land disposal, since we'll still be holding title and it would just be granting of an easement, but we do ultimately need the council to make the final decision on something like this, just because of the size of it. So this is your guide, this is the first introduction of this offer outside of staff.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see it on our agenda, and I haven't seen it anywhere else besides yours. Councilman Carpenter?
I mean, this is a silly question. I'm assuming this is an easement in perpetuity?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yes, I would just like to hear if it's appropriate from staff, I'm gonna rely on Kevin and his expertise on what this deal sounds like. This isn't my wheelhouse. What do you think of this proposal, Kevin, and your staff?
So I've only had a chance to just, do a brief look at it, just with other projects that had to get completed last week. So we've only had this for a week and a half or so. I think that the city would definitely be getting some benefits from the creation of this road that are in addition to the monetary value that they're proposing. Obviously, this could potentially open up access up to that hillside. We'll have to see what final conditions look like once the road's put in, but there is some benefits beyond just the monetary proposal in front of you.
And then can I get clarification on what utilities are looking at being included along that?
The city utility that is in the just on the north end of the Barker Creek Bridge is the city's raw water line. And it currently is 10-inch line encased in steel casing with 2 inches of insulation around it. Excuse me. The road construction, it's a pretty good steep hillside. And so depending on exactly where you're at, as you're going up the hill, going north, you're on the right side, there's going to be a cut slope that could be anywhere from 20 to 40 feet or so high, and it is in a slope of 1 foot horizontal, 6 foot vertical. Early on, Kevin and Sam both expressed concerns about being able to get up, because now they hike up to the water source up there. And they wanted, rather than have us do the engineering along themselves, ourselves, they asked that we use G.B. Jones in Anchorage, is someone who's done a lot of work for the city on the city's water system. So we're doing that. That contract actually is in place and underway. They have proposed an adjustment in the alignment, and I'll meet with Sam Greenwood tomorrow morning by 10:30 and have some additional discussions there with what they're coming up with and some other thoughts to help their foot access. I have added, and it doesn't show here, but almost 200 feet of ramp, and it's on the cut side, basically a 10-foot wide bench that goes up at about an 8% from the ditch line up to where it runs. It just crosses the water line and then daylights with the original ground. Because it isn't a nice clean edge, we're going to put a set of about 10 or 12 steps, pretty conventional stairway to finish their access. They don't have the same act with that, they'll have their foot access up to their water source. In doing it, we're giving them the place on the right-hand shoulder where they've got room to park a couple of vehicles. Again, I've got, Sam has seen preliminary on that, and I've got more information to give her in the morning. The question it really comes of is scheduling, and I need to confirm with her at what point in the year that the city could get by without that source for a period of time, because it's going to take a little time to make the road cut through there and then put the water line back in. So we've got some coordination to do, and that whole effort will be, before the final decisions are made, we'll have both the Jones team, ourselves, and our contractor working together to plan the sequence of what we do in there. And you can see we're in the design right now of what that relocation probably will look like. And I've got a meeting in the morning with Sam Greenwood. So no question about it needs to be maintained, and obviously we can't just cut the water off. The other line that is south of the bridge, as we understand it, belongs to Gordon Lodge and feeds a small hydro generation plant that he doesn't use it all the time, but he uses it some. We've got to deal with his water line also. So same deal, only we'll do the engineering ourselves.
Okay. Question. Now, I know segments of this road are single lane. Is this, what is the status? Single
You're
or
familiar
double?
with the beginning of it. You're coming off of existing New England Cannery Road, and it's paved and right into a rock face.
Right.
And we come up with the potential, if this develops further out, further north, the day may come. We wanted to do a 2-lane road the whole way, we just ran out of money. So we backed it down to single, but I held the two-lane design until we're north of the Orchid Creek Bridge, so that we wouldn't have to go back in the future if somebody wanted to widen it and do a bunch more blasting to widen coming up through the deep cut area. I don't want to put words in the contractor's mouth, but I suspect that a good deal of our riprap will come out of that first 1,500 feet of cut, just because it's good rock and it's some fairly deep cuts in there. But that is, when we were here in January for public meetings, Mr. Ramey indicated that if we delayed the heavy work in this area until after his tourist season wound down, that he would be much happier with us. And we're trying to do that. And
So I understand what you're saying, up to Orca Creek Bridge that you have
yeah,
displayed
we'll
here.
be two-lane, and
two
we'll
lane.
transition after across the bridge, the next couple of 100 feet, we'll transition to the single lane.
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions for them? Anybody online have questions? Not hearing any, so thank you for the presentation, and I'm sure we'll come before the city and
Thank you.
council at some point in time. Thank you. Okay, it takes us to audience comments regarding agenda items. The mic is open for anybody. Okay, seeing none, hearing none. Chairpersons, representatives of boards and commissions, CCMC. Who's online? School board, you wanna, anything, Barb?
Sure, I got a couple of things. Barb Jewell, Chair, Cordova Board of Education. So I want to start by saying thank you again for the work session. I appreciate all the questions and an engaged conversation. Graduation is a week from Saturday. Pretty excited about it. Feels like the end of a very successful year with students accomplishing not only great academic outcomes, but a lot of awards. One of which I want to particularly mention is that 3 of our students have been nominated for a statewide Spirit of Youth Award. So Kate Flores, Shelby Gleason, and Yagnasis Mejia have all been nominated, recognized statewide as students who are engaged in their community and volunteering and participating in community and civic discourse. So we're pretty excited about that. As you know, we're working on our budget. We'll have further decisions to make about that at our June and July board meeting, or May, June, and July board meetings. We're also making some big decisions about curriculum coming up in May and June. So those are the things that we're focused on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Got a report from David Janka, Prince Sound Regional Citizens Advisory. Any questions or comments on that? And no student council report this time, so the consent calendar is before you.
I'll take the roll on the consent calendar. Tom Baylor is absent. Casey Kinsman.
Yes, approved.
Ann Schaefer.
Yes.
Kristen Carpenter.
Yes.
Ken Jones.
Yes.
Melina Meyer is absent. Kathy Sherman.
Yeah.
The consent calendar is approved.
Thank you. Our minutes were in the consent calendar. No bids to consider at this point in time. So that takes us on to reports. And my mayor's report is there in your packet. If you want to see how many kids are in this town, come to the first T-ball games. I think we had 16 last year, and sounds like there'll be just as many or more this year. with the expected kindergartners coming into the system, so. Any questions? Answer what I can. I have not heard back on a definite date on the postal service coming to town. I assume they're still planning on it. I have not heard one way or the other on a date yet. That's about all I have. I will be out of town all next week, but I don't think we've got any meetings planned, so I'll be back by the time that happens. So, moving on to the manager's report. Ellen?
All right, thank you. First of all, I want to give a big shout out to staff who recently completed a Denali Commission application as well as a Ports and Infrastructure Development grant with the feds, all related to the harbor and both north and south side improvements. So we're crossing our fingers that we will be successful with those two grants, but again, shout out to the team, Colin, Tony, Kevin, others, all of whom worked very long, hard hours to get those proposals out. Next week we start collective bargaining with the IBEW. We have our first meeting on Wednesday. And again, we're looking to have a final agreement before the budget process so that we're not having to go back in and make adjustments to the budget for FY24. So that's where we're at. Week of May 15th, we start the audit, so we're up to our eyeballs in finance information as well. So staff is plenty busy getting ready for both the audit and the collective bargaining negotiations. And then I also want to bring to your attention, obviously this week is the Shorebird Festival, and I think we're all seeing folks in town now. I wish the weather was a little better, but the birds apparently are arriving, which is very exciting. Part of having guests in town, I think especially on rainy days, we realize that there are a lack of covered spaces, and there's an initiative underway here in town driven by some community leaders to construct covered spaces throughout town. And their very first effort, they've applied to the state and are in line to get potentially an award in collaboration with the Forest Service and Corporation to build a covered space and trails access out at Whiteshed. What is it?
Hartney Bay.
Hartney Bay, excuse me, Hartney Bay. So that's the first project, and I just wanted to make you aware that that is something that in order to be successful with the state and the grant funding that they're seeking, they would like a resolution of support, and you'll see that at your May 17th meeting. So with that, I think that's it for me for now, and thank you.
Questions for the manager?
Yeah, if you could just, we were talking offline about IT, if you could give us an update on where we're.
Yeah, so we have a couple of things that are going on around our IT, one of which we don't have someone on the ground to do the work, and then secondly, there's some issues with the equipment. I think we've sort of Frankensteined some solutions here that really need to be permanently addressed. So we've made an offer to an individual to begin work here as a full-time IT person. He has accepted the offer, but he is a gillnet fisherman, or made a commitment to gillnet, and will not be able to start until later in the summer. And we are going to delay having the IT folks who are involved with all of our tech around this room and other places. We're going to delay their arrival until we have an IT person on the ground, so that we are coordinating that and that we're getting maximum benefit from their visit. So that's where we are. There's hope in sight, but we're still a little bit away from a solution.
Thank you.
Any questions for the manager? Okay, we'll move along to the next clerk's report.
To tack on to that IT, So I've still been recording, obviously, so I can do my minutes, and then I give it to Emily right away in the morning, and then she puts it up on YouTube still. And we do have several people who are close council followers, and I believe they've been happy with that arrangement, so we're still getting the word out, just not live and not video. But it will be great when he can start and maybe work on these, getting it a little more easy so it's push a button for people like us. So we'll talk at pending agenda, I guess, about all the things that are coming, and I just put down that covered spaces also because Duncan had asked me earlier today, and I realize now that he let Helen be the mouthpiece so that I can make sure it's in the minutes, because we're actually gonna be beyond their deadline for needing the resolution. But if it makes a set of draft minutes that council's going to do the resolution, it will cover what they need for their grant. So I'll make sure I get the minutes done real quick. And that's it. We'll just talk about all those dates at pending agenda.
Okay, thank you. Questions for the clerk? Okay, moving on to staff quarterly reports. We have a museum report and a membership letter from UFA. Was that the bill or was that?
Yeah, and we've already paid it. I just thought you might like to read
Okay.
about what they do
Oh, yeah.
and their recap of the year.
So the city is official members of UFA. You're interested in that? Okay, any questions, comments on correspondence? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to ordinances and resolutions. Resolution 05-2316, a resolution of the Council of the City of Cordova, Alaska, placing a ballot proposition before the voters at the regular election on March 5th, 2024, amending City Charter Sections 2-1 entitled Mayor and City Council, Number and Qualifications, Designated Council Seats, Section 10-2 entitled 3-Year Terms, Election at Large, Nonpartisan Elections, and Section 10-4 entitled Voting, Who Elected, to remove designated seats for city council members, to clarify that council members and the mayor serve 3-year terms of office, remove the 40% vote threshold for prevailing city council candidates, and remove requirements regarding runoff elections.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move to approve Resolution 05-23-16.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to approve. Councilmember Carpenter.
Can I offer, so I asked for this to be brought to us as an action, and we talked about it at the last council meeting, so I want to say thank you to staff for working with the city attorney and clarifying all the language. And yeah, I think the reason I asked for this was that I thought it would help with making elections a little more straightforward. We don't elect people to represent certain districts of the community. They just, for whatever reason, we had switched to having people run for an individual seat that didn't really have any specific designation, so it seemed kind of, I don't know, like an extra step. And so I was just advocating that we go back to at-large, electing people to at-large seats. I don't think it disadvantages people to do it this way. I know that the example that when I looked it up, they talked about one of the reasons you might designate a specific seat for a region in a city is if there's a particular neighborhood that has minority populations, and those candidates might not be able to win in an at-large election. But I don't know that that's as much of an issue here, and I'm not sure that they would be disadvantaged anyway, still have a voting block. And I'm wondering about, we got that notice about adding the language into the title. So can I offer a friendly amendment, or do
it as a regular amendment, if you don't mind.
Do you want the language?
I think she has it also. Right, do you have it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do. Was there a second? Should I let the second speak first?
No, go ahead, if you have an amendment.
Yes, I'd like to amend the resolution, amend it by adding the words mayoral and between the words prevailing and city council in two places. First, in the last line of the title of the resolution, that's on page 50 of the packet, and then again in the third line of the proposition question, top of page 51 of the packet.
I'll second.
Okay, do you wish to speak to your motion on the amendment?
I think
So,
that, yeah, self-explanatory. I think these words were inadvertently left out, and we have to make sure that we're referring to both the mayoral and the council elections, so.
Okay, on the amendment, Councilmember Schaefer?
Yes.
No, not to vote.
Oh, sorry.
Support.
No, I don't have a comment. I'm in support.
Does anybody have any comments on the, Councilmember Kinsman?
No comments.
Councilmember Jones, you still on there?
No comment. I'm in support.
Okay, who else was online? Councilmember Sherman? Okay, I think we're ready to vote on the amendment.
Do you want me to do a roll?
Yes.
Mayor Allison.
Since there's two on there.
Now she
Oh,
said something.
did you have a comment, or? Councilmember Sherman?
I have a question to the amendment you repeated, I could not hear it.
Okay, can you repeat the amendment? Make sure you hear it, Mike.
So the amendment, so we're amending the title of the resolution by adding mayoral and, the words mayoral and, between the words prevailing and city council, and we're doing it in two places. The first place is in the last line of the title of the resolution on page 50 of the packet, and then again in the third line of the proposition question, top of page 51 in the packet. So when you see the word prevailing, put the words mayoral and right after it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, since we have two online, let's roll call
Okay.
on the amendment.
Just a quick explanation. The effect is that we're removing the 40% vote threshold for both mayor and council, and we had just left mayor out of those two locations, and that's why it got amended just now. So, on the amendment to Resolution 52316, Kathy Sherman,
Yes.
Ken Jones,
Yes.
Casey Kinsman,
Yes.
Kristen Carpenter,
Yes.
Tom Baylor and Melina are absent, and Schaefer.
Yes.
And the amendment's approved, 5-0 vote.
Okay, we're back to the main motion. Councilmember Carpenter, were you finished?
Yes.
Okay, Councilmember Schaefer, the main motion, as amended.
I guess we just wanted to clarify what happens with the tie. I guess I don't see it anywhere where it says the 10% that we talked about.
In code, it does.
Okay, so
It exists.
it's already exists in code. The 10%.
Not a tie, when the vote is within 10% of the ballots cast for that seat, you do an automatic recount. And then, actually, I don't recall if the
So
tie
it's-
language is in code also, but,
Yeah, and here it says in the case of a tie, the election shall be determined fairly by a drawing from among the candidates tying in a meeting of the council under its direction. Would that be then after the recount and
yes.
et cetera? Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood the process.
I have to read it again. So is the tie language new?
No.
So it was here.
Well, it's on page 52, under section 10-4.
Yeah,
voting.
it had
It's the
been
last
here,
sentence.
right, it had always been there, so
Okay.
I have to believe, I know I've done runoff, I've done automatic recounts, so it must fit what's in code with that language.
Okay, let's see. Councilmember Sherman, on the main motion as amended?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm in favor of it.
Yeah, Councilmember Kinsman, comments, questions?
Yeah, no comments, just in favor.
And Councilmember Jones, any questions, comments, any motion?
Nope, I'm in favor. I support putting this in front of the voters for them to decide.
Okay, let's have a roll call vote.
Okay, so on the main motion to approve Resolution 52316 as amended, Ann Schaefer,
Yes.
Kathy Sherman,
Yeah,
Ken Jones,
Yes.
Tom Baylor is absent, Casey Kinsman,
Yes.
Melina Meyer is absent, Kristen Carpenter.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Item 13, Resolution 052317, a resolution of the Council of the City of Cordova, Alaska, authorizing the city to lease with an option to purchase one vehicle from Community Leasing Partners for an amount not exceeding $72,370.26, and to appropriate $16,992.17 for the 2024 payment of that lease with option to purchase, and approving the use of sole source procurement through the innovative procurement method to lease the vehicles with the option to purchase.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move to approve Resolution 05-23-17.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Councilmember Carpenter.
We approved this capital expense in our capital improvement budget, and so this is just we authorized maybe it's like authorizations and appropriations, we authorized it, and so this is implementing that purchase. So I'm in support of it.
Okay, Councilmember Schaefer.
Yeah, it seems like we need to upgrade from the vehicle that's in use now. It sounds like a lot of work and a lot of time, so I'm in support.
Councilmember Sherman.
yes, that's budget time, so we're good to go.
Councilmember Kinsman.
Yeah, I support this, but I just would really like to see, I guess, if ever called upon, just the maintenance records of these things. That's not a small amount of money. It's a needed asset. I absolutely agree that it's a needed asset, but I just want to ensure that it truly is being maintained as stated here for the manufacturer's recommendations.
Okay, Councilmember Jones.
Yeah, I'll support it, but I don't really like this whole lease with option to purchase thing. I would prefer to just see it buy it outright and save the interest, or else we really can't afford it. But that's just my opinion. So I'll vote for it. We need the asset, but I think it'd be better to buy these things outright in the future.
Okay, can you call the roll on that, please, clerk?
Yes, on Resolution 52317, Kristen Carpenter,
Yes.
Kathy Sherman,
Yeah,
Tom Baylor and Melina Meyer are absent, Ann Schaefer,
Yes.
Casey Kinsman,
Yes.
and Ken Jones.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you. That moves us to no unfinished business, so no miscellaneous business, our pending agenda. Clerk, you said you had a few things.
Well, I had mentioned it earlier, but I should say it on the record, that we will certify the roll now that the assessment roll is completed, all the Board of Equalization met, and we've sent out all the adjusted assessment notices. We'll certify the roll on May 17th. Mill rate has to be set by June 15th, and so we'll have to do it at the June 7th meeting, which is good because then we have to plug it in and print tax bills in the mail by July 1st. And then the school budget, we clarified that they will approve their own budget at their June meeting, so then get it to us timely to put in our second June meeting, and we have a resolution template kind of made up that's got a lot of numbers in it, and you'll see that at the June 21st meeting. And then the guest speakers tonight, the resolution to approve this right-of-way easement thing. I wasn't sure when Kevin's gonna get me that, but probably within the next couple of meetings, I imagine, you'll have that resolution. And then just a bunch of other stuff has come up, like early this time, it seems. There's a new mobile restaurant that's wanting to be approved. So unfortunately, he missed this meeting, but that'll be on the next meeting. I think I have a liquor license renewal for the next one. And Sam and I are both doing kind of smallish ordinances, but mine is about the cemetery and removing the requirement for a rough box. And then hers is going to be the refuse one that we've talked about with bears, and requiring the time frame that you put your garbage out. You know, it can't be the night before. So those will be 2 code changes that come next time too. And that's enough.
Anybody else have anything you want to see on the next agenda?
Yeah, I would like, I can go with 2 notes here. So in future agenda items, item number 5, this revenue, financial planning, sales tax cap, I don't know what started this conversation, maybe we need to scrap it and redo something, but clearly we're seeing lots of requests for money, and we don't have the revenue to support all the requests that we have. So it has to come from somewhere, and I'd like us to start that conversation, have that conversation. And it's not a fun conversation, but it's a necessary conversation. And I know it's not gonna be solved in one conversation either. So I would like to see that, and it sounds like maybe next agenda isn't the right one. There might be a few small things on there, but maybe it is. So.
Maybe we can get a report from the manager at the next meeting or 2 on how you feel I know the last time this came up, staff was doing some training or work with the vendors to clarify the code or clarify the interpretation of the code, make it the same. Maybe we can get a report on how they think that is going. So I think at one time we were considering changes, but staff thought maybe our code was good enough, we just weren't all following it uniformly. So see how get a report on how that's going.
And that kind of brings into upcoming meetings, item number 9, and maybe that's what you're referencing, code update for 5.4 sales tax. I see it on here, something for spring, summer this year. Well, we're really ending spring and gonna be into summer soon, so.
Our attorney is working on the sales tax code revision to bring us in line with, bring everything in line so it's clearer to the community. It provides a better planning device for us as staff. And I think she said May she would have that first revision. So we'll be presenting it for sure in the next few meetings. We're just waiting for that document.
Thank you. And in an effort to, if I can add something to the pending agenda, I know someone wants to second this, after having some conversation with Holly, the city attorney, in alignment with the next election, it's a code adjustment, but I would like to see some in-person attendance requirements for our city council meetings, and that kind of, and what I'm thinking, and obviously this can be a conversation, in the form of limiting teleconference attendance. Currently the code states that in-person and teleconference attendance are one and the same. And would like to start a conversation around what that responsibly needs to look for representing our community. With that, the city attorney and myself had a pretty lengthy conversation about maybe how, really what probably should be happening is us excluding teleconference attendance at all to executive sessions and any of our quasi judicial deliberations, and that we can't guarantee the nature of where those people are. Not questioning anyone's integrity who isn't here, but generally we need to have something written down, and to kind of, those are very that's where we discuss very sensitive topics, and it really should be within closed doors and be able to guarantee they're within closed doors. So it's kind of something to cover ourselves as well. So I'm okay proposing those two separate conversations, or one. I think they kind of go hand in hand, but I'm two, if that makes more sense for you, Susan, two separate agenda items, and if anyone wants to second that, then to get it on there.
Mayor Allison, this is Councilman Sherman, I would second that.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll put it on the,
So put those two things on pending agenda. How do you want to bring a draft ordinance for the discussion, or more of a discussion item, or?
I would like to start with a conversation as far as attendance goes, because I know this as a volunteer organization. We're all volunteered to be here. I know this. People like to go away in the wintertime, or people fish in the summertime, and so telecommunication is and needs to be a viable option, but it shouldn't be a acceptable 100% option. So I want a conversation on what we collectively feel would be an acceptable, whatever that looks like.
I think a discussion before we spend a bunch of attorney money
I think
is
so.
appropriate.
Okay, I'll put those on, and
Thank you.
I may, before it comes time to come forward, I may discuss it with you, since you're kind of sponsoring it, to see, what kind of materials you'd like brought to such a meeting, what kind of information. Okay,
Thank you.
sounds good.
Okay, anybody else, any agenda items? Anything you want to see on the agenda in the future?
Mayor Allison, Mr. Sherman.
Yes, Councilmember Sherman.
I'm not sure, I keep muting myself, but I just wanted to second Councilman Kinsman's suggestions, and I totally agree with them.
Yep, it's being put on the pending agenda, and staff will work with him on what materials we want brought to that discussion when it happens.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Last call for pending agenda. Okay, moving on to audience participation. Anything anybody out there wants to talk about, come up, use the mic, please, so people online can hear you. State your name and address.
Hi, I'm Natasha Casiano. I live at 406 Front Street here in Cordova. And I want to thank you all for being council and you're spending the time to do all the things that you do. I appreciate that. I'm here to tell you a little bit about the Cordova Covered Spaces project. It's a project to create covered spaces along what we're calling the Cordova Trail, which is from Hartney Bay to Orca Bay, with a spur out Power Creek. And we are raising money for this project under the fiscal sponsor of the Cordova Historical Society. And we're doing a big push to raise money in May and June for this project. You may have seen some of the things that we're trying to do. We started off with an art show that will be ongoing at the Reluctant. The Heart Wall that Sylvia created will now be brought back to life, and every 60 days, a new artist will be represented there. And that 50% of the funds raised from the artwork will go to Cordova Covered Spaces, which is pretty exciting that the Reluctant will host that. We have a couple of other things we're doing during Bird Festival. We'll be raising funds. We'll have a table here at the event to give information, answer questions, and hopefully gain donations. We're also getting the registrations from the Bay to Bay event that goes from Hartney to Orca. And so we have a lot of support for the project, and we're working hard to raise funds and to write grants for it. Right now, we have been working with DOT on a TAP grant, and we'll be bringing a resolution to you so that hopefully you'll be able to support the project for the Hartney Bay portion of it through the TAP monies. And that's all I've got tonight.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your work on that,
Thank
on
you.
the community's behalf. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all.
Thanks.
Any other comments from the audience? Okay, moving on to council comments then. Councilmember Jones.
No comment, thanks, everybody.
Councilmember Sherman.
I just wanted to thank the school board for the work session. That was really useful, and I'll follow up with any questions with Ally. And I apologize for not being there in person. I really didn't want to spread anything right now. And I'm really excited about the covered spaces initiative. I think it's a great idea. We fixed in Homer, and there's quite a few covered spaces in Homer, and it's really useful, and it's really lovely to have those spaces where you can take children to be outdoors and it's raining. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Kinsman.
Yes, I just want to kind of piggyback off a little bit of what Councilmember Jones was referring to in reference to the community and leasing partners. We've been doing it, and I feel it can be a useful tool, but I do agree with this statement that, you know, in the sense that we use this as a tool to allocate money, and, you know, and we're appropriating the money, so to speak, but moving forward, I agree. I would like to see that we continue with that money after we've paid off these items, even if it's a lesser amount, to know that we're gonna have to replace these items. That's just fiscally responsible. That's how we need to do it, and we don't, in that case, need to be paying someone else interest on it. So hopefully, as we start seeing and getting to the end of some of our commitments to the community leasing partners, we can just carry that moving forward. And obviously, hopefully, our brand new Ford Transit lasts us more than 5 years, which is the terms of the lease, and we can, you know, have maybe another 5 to 10 years use out of it, so we can plan on replacing it. And again, I doubt this will be the last item we see going through community leasing partners, so I'd just like maybe that to be considered as we consider using them. That's all. Thank you.
Councilmember Carpenter.
I would just echo some of the comments made earlier, but I also want to thank staff for the work that was done on the South Harbor grant applications. I think those were, I'm pretty sure they were fairly tedious applications, and that there was a lot of material that was required to put together, so thanks for doing that. And yeah, thanks to the school board for that work session. That was really helpful.
Vice Mayor Ann Schaefer.
Yeah, I'll echo Councilman Carpenter's comments, and yeah, thank the staff for the museum report. I really appreciated the pictures, and I gotta get myself over there soon. And if you have time this week, go out to Hartney Bay and see the shorebirds.
Okay, I have one follow-up comment, I guess, to the leasing situation. I've always thought that if we're paying more interest than we're getting on our investment accounts, then we should be being our own bank. In fact, if it wasn't illegal, I would suggest we buy our own bonds, but unfortunately, we can't do that, but we certainly can be our own bank for leasing things, but that'd be a discussion about the use of our investment money, so anyway, that's my thoughts on that. Thanks to the staff for the efforts you put in on those grant applications. Hopefully they are fruitful this year, so yeah, thank you all for your efforts. With that, we have no executive session, correct?
Correct.
Okay. We will call the meeting adjourned.